Welcome to episode 5 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. The Enemy Within.
In this week's episode, a transporter accident splits Kirk into two parts. When neither half shows the ability to lead effectively, Scotty and Spock must come up with a way to repair the transporter and undo the division before a group of crewmen stranded on the planet below freeze to death.
Lieutenant Kirk! I'm Captain Kirk!
Good evening, Ian. We've got a darker episode this week, haven't we?
It certainly has its dark moments and its dark makeup.
Yeah.
Its dark lighting.
I think it's my favourite episode so far.
That's good. Unless it's because you really hated the first four, but I don't think that's the case.
No, that's not the case. It was enjoyable, but there are certainly scenes here that we need to discuss. There's certainly behaviours that can't go without a mention.
That's true. It's the first episode we've had that really showcases Kirk as a character over the rest of the crew.
We go full shat in this episode.
And there's no guest stars really at all. It's all Enterprise crew and that dog thing.
That's true. The puppy in the Halloween hat, the party hat.
Yeah, it's a thespian, I'll have you know. Quick reminders again before we start. I think I've maybe not been quite as international on this as I should have been in previous weeks. We're watching on UK Netflix these episodes, which are the remastered versions. I think in America they might be on Amazon Prime, although whether they're moving to CBS All Access at some point is also possible. We're watching in air date order. I think this might be the fourth one that was filmed. Certainly it's before The Man Trap and before last week's episode as well.
You said last week we would stop this.
Telling you what order they were going to be in.
Yeah,
it's important this week.
Okay. Well, while we're at it, mention the fact that YouTube are already playing silly buggers with us.
Yes, they've got challenges to the copyrighted material contained within, so we'll see if we can get that sorted out. If we can't get it sorted out, you'll always be able to find us somewhere.
You told me, I think last week, that Rand leaves after a few episodes, maybe 8 episodes or so, and I can't help but think that it's maybe because she is threatened with sexual violence every other episode.
She does seem to be a target, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what's going on away from the cameras.
You all set?
I am.
Crack on.
Okay, so we're starting out on planet Alpha 177.
Yes, an exploration party is down there working in the cold while Sulu holds a dog in a Halloween costume, as I said earlier.
It looks like he's stealing this dog.
Yeah.
It's from the planet, presumably.
There must be rules about what you can and can't take. We're worried about contamination, etc. So you can't just go lifting the animals, even if they look friendly or healthy enough.
Yeah. Maybe they've done tests. Maybe it's a known species.
Yeah.
But then they don't refer to it by any name.
Kirk notes, I think, that at night the temperature can drop to minus 120 degrees. Now, what's that? I've got always
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yeah. What's that in our language?
It's not as cold as 120 degrees.
Yeah, but not far off. I mean, it's not warm.
No, but I think it's certainly not survivable on an ongoing basis.
Just then, some random chap, Fisher, I think we come to learn.
Yep.
He has a little tumble.
Yeah, he just falls off a hill by himself.
Clumsy. He cuts his hand and is covered in some sort of rock dust.
Yeah, Kirk sends him back to the Enterprise for some treatment.
Yeah, go up to sick bay. And we head to the transporter room.
We do. Scotty seems to be having some kind of a problem beaming Fisher in.
Yeah, it doesn't go quite as smoothly as usual. And when Fisher is scanned, we eventually find out that the dust is magnetic, I think, Scotty says.
Some kind of ore, yeah.
This concerns him. And he orders decontamination, as well as remarking that the process acted like a burnout?
Yeah, it certainly was not healthy for the transporter system. So when Kirk then asks to be beamed up, Scotty makes him wait a moment or so till he gets things recalibrated.
Things anyway seem okay, so he beams up Kirk. But again, something is not quite right. And this is confirmed by, I think it's a look of disorientation on Kirk's face when he appears.
He seems to stumble off the transporter pad and Scotty has to support him.
Yeah. He says he's okay, just a little dizzy. But Scotty helps him to his quarters. And when they leave, something dramatic happens.
Yes, a second Kirk arrives on the transporter.
Yeah, and it's quite obvious that it is an evil Kirk, with a great close-up on his face to hammer this home.
Yeah, he looks dastardly.
He does, yeah.
We get the opening credits.
We do, and then a captain's log. What year is it? Stardate, Ian, give it to me.
It doesn't. 1672.1.
Thereabouts. Good guesswork, I would say, Ian.
Yeah.
Now, this is an earlier stardate than what we saw in a previous episode, so tell me about this.
Yeah, this is why it's not important, because I think the stardates, if they're in any order, they're going to be in the order they were filmed, but I don't even think they keep them consistent that way, so I tend to disregard it. I think the way that the episodes were aired is generally considered to be chronological.
Okay.
So this happens after the previous episode, regardless of stardates.
Yeah, but this episode was filmed before the...
It may have been filmed before, but in the Star Trek universe, this is later, I believe.
Okay.
Otherwise, why would they show them mixed up? I don't think it really matters too much.
You're obviously not a dedicated Trekor like myself, taking things seriously.
Clearly, Gerry.
In any case, as you mentioned, we find out this is Planet Alpha 177, and the log recaps what we know.
Yeah, it's one of Kirk's timey-wimey logs where he reflects on things that the audience or the viewers know, but the character doesn't.
Back to the transporter room where the evil Kirk fondles the equipment, but is disturbed by a red shirt, and he's quite furtive until he realises that it is assumed that he is a captain.
Well, from his point of view, why would he think anything else? He's not even aware there's a second captain.
Yeah, but does he know? See, that's the thing. In his mind, what is he thinking? Does he know who he is?
Yes, he knows who he is.
Okay. Well, perhaps it's a traumatic event. Perhaps he thinks that this is obvious that this has happened.
Yeah.
They can see into him, or they can see through him, they can see what he's thinking.
Or at least he doesn't know what they think, so he's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he gets a normal reaction, this buoys him a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or buoys, as they say in the States.
Do they?
Yeah, I think so.
In the corridor, we hear Uhura. We don't see her in this episode, but we hear her a couple of times.
Do we?
Yeah, she is talking over the comms, not saying anything particularly important, as Scotty is trying to persuade Kirk to go and get himself checked over by McCoy.
Yeah.
This is the first Kirk, we should say.
Good. We'll call him Good and Evil Kirk, I think.
I've used various different descriptions through my notes, but we'll see.
Good and Evil is what we're going to call him from now on, ain't it? Not your various different descriptions, unless I'm allowed to call Bones Mac.
You can't.
Okay.
We'll get complaints. More complaints. If we then go to Kirk's quarters where Rand is waiting inside for him.
Yeah, Kirk, I think, curtly dismisses her. But why was she there in the first place?
She's delivering the ship's manifests.
Right.
So she must have access to his quarters. I think they're kind of working quarters as well as sleeping quarters. He doesn't have an office, I don't believe, other than this.
Should have an office. I mean, why would the captain not have an office? It's
Yes.
either on the bridge or in his bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, what if he wants a meeting? What's that?
Well,
What if he
a
has to-
briefing room for a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for briefings, not meetings.
Mm.
Unless it's a briefing meeting.
Walk and talk.
That's it. Corridors are always good. That's what they should have. Just people walk around the corridors discussing things.
Yeah.
After Rand leaves, he lies down on his bed, and it is obvious that he's quite drained by what's happened.
It seems that way. He doesn't have a lot of get up and go.
No. But we get up and go.
Sick bay.
Indeed. McCoy tidies up Fisher's hand with a vacuum cleaner and an old-fashioned water spray as he jokes around with him.
He does. And Mean Kirk comes in and bodily demands sodium brandy, which we've heard of a few times already.
Yeah. He ignores Fisher. I think Fisher tries to tell him that his hand's improved or whatever, but he's not interested. He wants his brandy.
I like the fact that brandy's kept in the sick bay. I presume McCoy's the only person who's got cupboards with locks on them.
Okay, so questions here then. Yeah, this brandy's obviously in this case, for medicinal purposes. Do they have a wet room? Do they have a bar on the Enterprise where they can let loose, have a few drinks?
Well, we've seen them in the rec room before.
Yeah,
so-
a rec room's not a bar. A rec room's where you can play dominoes and...
Yeah, I don't think there's a bar in this ship. When you get to the Next Generation, there is a bar.
Okay.
But they sell synthetic alcohol.
Synthetic alcohol.
Yeah, it has all the flavour, none of the ill effect. Anyway, after Fisher leaves sick bay, Kirk insists on the brandy. He grabs McCoy around the back of the neck,
He does.
and then he lurches off
looking for Rand's quarter, or at least spotting Rand's quarters on his way.
And he has a sinister smile on his face. Things aren't looking too hot for Rand at this point.
No, because once he gets in the quarters, he starts snooping around, looking at her pictures, looking in her drawers.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back in Kirk's own quarters...
Spock comes in to find out what is going on.
Yeah, so we assume there's some sort of time passed because Spock knows about this incident in sickbay.
Yeah, he's been told by McCoy about the brandy, but it is obvious that the good Kirk knows nothing about it and tells him that McCoy must have been putting him on, having a bit of a joke. And Spock, I think, he sort of accepts it. There's nothing else he can do at this point.
It seems like the sort of thing McCoy would do.
Does it?
Well, maybe.
Pretend that your captain has assaulted you and ran off with a bottle of brandy to do a bit of assaulting.
Just to embarrass Spock when he asks about it.
Yeah, okay. Back in the transporter room, Kirk and Spock meet with Scotty, who's holding...
This is good Kirk, I think.
Yeah.
We can now tell, I think he's changed outfit at some point.
He has. He's more informal, a little bit relaxed. He slipped into something a little bit...
It's the one that he wore in Charlie X, I think. The sort of fatigues.
Dashing.
They beam up this sort of dog creature, or they have done, and it's split into two beings.
This is because of the transporter malfunction. And he says that one version is the good side of the dog and the other is...
It's this great diagnosis, isn't it?
Yeah. Good and evil dogs.
Good boy. Every dog's a good boy. Yeah, they've got this docile dog and this one that just barks a lot, which is quite annoying.
Yeah.
Scotty says they can't risk beaming up Sulu and the rest of the men because what if this would happen to a man? And Kirk gives an oh my, and you think, yeah, he's figured this out.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll find out in the next scene that he hasn't figured this out. But there's a reason for that. I should probably just mention it now. It's because this scene was switched with a later scene after they filmed it.
Oh, is it?
So originally this was after he realised that there was a duplicate.
Okay.
But now it's not. And you can probably interpret it that way fairly safely.
You could do.
Director's vision, I suppose.
We'll get to I'm looking forward to the director chat later on.
We'll get there.
But in the meantime, we go to Rand's quarters. She arrives back and is confronted by evil Kirk and immediately understands that something is not right as he drinks from his bottle. This reminded me very much of Superman 3.
Okay.
He gets a bit grimy, unshaven. He gets drunk in a bar and breaks the optics by flicking peanuts at them. And then he heads over to his child. Who's that? Lana? Not Lois Lane, another one. Lana, yeah. And yeah, I think he gets a bit inappropriate with her.
Yeah, it looks like evil Kirk here has borrowed some of Rand's eyeliner.
It looks quite good. I like the look.
It suits him, but it's like I must mark myself out. I've always wanted to do this. She doesn't get more than a couple of steps in the room before he pounces.
Well, before that, he tries to be quite suave. He's call me Jim.
Well, he does, yeah, it's Jim here, Janice.
And says that she's too beautiful to ignore.
Too much women.
Yeah, it's your own fault. Just too good looking.
Accept responsibility, Janice.
Before, telling her not to fight him and then sexually assaulting her to the ground.
Yes, and it's clear that he would go further, but she scratches his face and manages to get her door open where a crewman is passing.
Yes, is it Fisher again?
I think it is Fisher again.
He sees what's going on, runs to get help, and is chased by Kirk, who catches him and beats him.
Well, he knocks him out, yeah.
Yeah. This scene, I think my perception of the show was that it was far more cuddly and far more family friendly.
Yeah, no, this is not that family friendly. Although this episode has like a PG rating in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this would be the type of show. I've got a 6-year-old, and I thought this would be the type of show that I could easily have on whilst he's maybe watching the TV or in the room with me. I'm not sure if I would be comfortable with that type of scene.
No, it's challenging, isn't it? You'd have to explain.
Yeah. So yeah, and in that sense, I'm happy with the show that it's pushing the boundaries a lot more than what I expected.
That's good. We get another time skip, and in exactly the same way as the previous one, Spock is now aware of what's happened and is going to discuss it with good Kirk.
Yeah, he's looking for an explanation. He, of course, denies everything as they head to sickbay to try and get to the bottom of what's going on. And as the lift door closes, what do we see?
We see the bloodied hand of evil Kirk come into view. They've just missed one another.
Yeah, it's quite a nice bit of directing here, I thought. He sticks his hand in front of the camera. It's covered in Fisher's blood around the knuckles. It's obviously quite a severe pummeling he's given his face.
Looks like it. He heads to his quarters where the other Kirk and Spock have just come from.
Yes, he's going to lick his wounds. Thankfully for Rand, that's the only licking he'll be doing.
Good Kirk and Spock arrive at sickbay.
Where with McCoy, they listen on to a distressed Rand who is detailing what happened to her.
Then he kissed me and he said that he was the captain. And he'd get hold of me. I didn't know what to do. When you mentioned the feelings we've been hiding, and you started talking about us.
Us?
Well, he is the captain. I couldn't just... You started hurting me. I had to fight you, scratch your face.
Yeoman.
And-
Look at me. Look at me. Look at my face. Are there any scratches?
I was sure I scratched you. I was frightened, maybe.
Yeoman, I was in my room. It wasn't me.
Sir, Fisher saw you too.
Fishes.
If it hadn't been... I can understand. I don't want to get you into trouble. I wouldn't have even mentioned it.
It wasn't me.
It was you, sir.
You know what you're saying?
Yes. I know what I'm saying.
Fair play to Fisher here, I thought.
It's a veiled threat there from Good Kirk to Fisher.
Yeah, but he stood up for it, a bit of integrity.
Yeah, well, both Fisher and Rand, unaware of any duplication, are convinced this is the man who's carried out the assault.
They are. Although Rand did say that she normally wouldn't have, it went a bit far. Didn't want to get him into trouble.
I think that's her hedging herself in this moment rather than... I don't think she ever would have allowed the captain to attack her in that way. She didn't seem happy at all with it. She was very upset.
And rightly so. So we heard Fisher there standing up for what is right, and he's led away by McCoy, and they dismiss Rand. Spock then states there is only one logical answer.
I disagreed with him on this.
Well, I was waiting for him to say they need to kill someone. There's only one thing we can do. Let's hunt someone down and kill them. No, they have an imposter on board. Wrong.
No, Kirk's lying is a possibility.
Well, the most obvious one is, that Kirk is lying and he is in fact a rapist. But it's not an imposter.
No, it's just part of Kirk, yeah.
So,
it's just as much Kirk as this other one.
Of course. Spock's logic, again, is flawed here. I'm hoping Spock as a character, as an intellect, improves because he's not living up to expectations. He's rubbish at chess and he keeps making these massive leaps and getting things wrong. Yeah. And he's also he's got bloodlust.
Well, that's true. Yeah, no, I think this is a mistake by Spock to say that there's only one logical answer. I think he's using his reputation for logical thinking to give his opinions added weight that they don't necessarily deserve.
Yeah, I would agree. Captain's log, 1672.9.
This log's identical to the previous log, except he just is a bit more certain in his language.
Yeah, and they remind us of the danger on the planet due to the temperature drop.
Let's take a jacket.
A hat, or maybe some gloves, mittens.
I mean, later in the series they've got a shuttle bay, but they obviously didn't have that figured out yet, so the men are stuck.
Do we ever add on things to the ship? I don't mean just that the script writers do. I mean, do they ever incorporate that into the storyline that we need this or that, or we're going to build something?
Of course they do, yeah.
Yeah.
In all iterations of the show, things just get discovered.
Okay.
Magical MacGuffin type things.
Good. Back down to the transporter room. Holding the good dog, Good Kirk asks Scotty what has happened, and he offers that the magnetic dust on Fisher's clothes when he was initially beamed up may have caused an overload. But it's just a supposition at the moment. At least he, unlike Spock and McCoy, in fairness to him as well, They offer suggestions, but they don't say it's the only logical.
Yeah, this must be the answer, yeah. I think Scotty says it's going to take some time to identify and resolve the problem, and then lame Kirk notes that this will mean the men die, but he doesn't really fight for anything. He doesn't push Scotty to think harder or faster.
He also says that because of the problems with the transporter, it's too risky to bring up the Sulu and the other party, or the rest of the party.
Yeah, so they're going to have to die.
Yeah.
Because Kirk's not going to make Scotty work any harder.
You say he doesn't bother, but he does try to remind him of the temperature situation.
He mentions it, but he's not forceful with it. He's not like, normally you expect Kirk to say, Scotty, we have to save these men.
Sure.
You know, get this fixed. You've got an hour to get this fixed. But instead it's more like, oh, they'll die. Oh, it's sad.
What else can we do?
Search parties, but don't kill anybody.
Spock then brings the subject back to Kirk's duplicate and is told to organise a search party.
Yeah, like I said, but Kirk doesn't want anybody killed because it might kill him or harm him in some way.
So a Spock who is now more decisive than Kirk informs him that they can't risk killing him as they have no knowledge of how it could affect his good self.
And he immediately accepts this and worries about it.
Well, you would.
Yeah.
Thinking, don't
Spock's
really
got
want...
no reason to say that. They don't know what's happened here. They don't know if it's part of the same man or a duplicate or...
Exactly, but that's why you shouldn't kill this person.
Yeah, but the way Spock phrases it is more like, this is absolutely the case, rather than we should probably be careful here. I felt, watching this scene, that Spock was probing. He was testing Kirk for the way he would respond to certain stimulus. I think he was asking questions and he was leaving things open to see if Kirk would pick them up. And sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. I think Spock at this point has this idea in his head that Kirk is starting to lose his decisiveness, and he's trying to find out if that is the case.
Spock's trying to instigate a mutiny, I think, or he's planning one if it has to happen.
But only at the very last possible minute. Good Kirk wants to make an announcement to the whole crew about what has happened and what the situation is and why he is limited in his decision making.
Yeah, but again, Spock has to advise him of this folly.
I think Spock is off base again, though.
Yeah, it's an odd one.
The crew must think you're infallible. No, the crew must think you're honest and trustworthy and reliable.
Because what are the crew going to do? They're not like a bunch of pirates here. They're not going to all of a sudden think, there's a weakness, we're going to take over and...
Yeah, it's not a pirate ship, yeah.
Yeah. Earlier as well, I think that we heard Kirk order that the phasers are all set to stun so as not to kill himself.
Yeah. So Spock tells him he can't tell everybody about this, and then Kirk just doesn't have the fight to go against that. He says, yes, and I should have thought of this myself, and please, next time I'm... These really wishy-washy orders. The next time I'm indecisive, tell me.
Yeah.
That's the limit of his instruction to Spock.
I think that's the point, isn't it? He is wishy-washy.
Yeah, he's getting that way.
Another log, 1673.1. Again, he recaps his condition.
Yeah, he's concerned about his loss of willpower. No doubt the subtext is he's concerned it'll lead to overeating and a lack of exercise.
To the bridge.
Yes,
Here.
Kirk's making this big announcement.
Yes, that there is an imposter on board. Again, not correct, but gives away information about the scratches. That's not a good move. That's the type of thing in a movie you find out about a killer and the police keep that to themselves. They don't...
Yeah, he's announcing it knowing that the imposter will hear. The thing that I find interesting here, though, is the imposter is in Kirk's quarters where he finds a jar of foundation.
Yeah.
to fix his scratches. That explains your question about makeup from earlier in the series.
Indeed. Kirk has to be reminded by Spock to inform the rest of the crew about the phasers being set to stun and to use minimum force. And so, hearing this in Kirk's quarters, the evil one shouts out that he is a captain, as we heard at the top of the podcast. I'm guessing that's quite an iconic little scene.
Well, it's quite a memorable one anyway, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Straight away. And like we said, from his point of view, he is Captain Kirk. He's not aware that he's some kind of evil half or duplicate. I don't think. Because good Kirk has the intelligence. He's able to ascertain something's missing here. Whereas this other half, I think, maybe lacks that bit of awareness. But he knows who he is.
Yeah, an interesting one.
I don't think he considers himself a usurper. And certainly he's got as much claim to being Captain Kirk as the other half does.
Yes.
Outside the door of Kirk's quarters, Wilson, who we didn't mention but was in an earlier scene with the transporter,
greets him, not realising he's the imposter. Has he not just heard the message?
This gullible idiot deserves everything he gets here.
Hands over his phaser. It's like, well, why would the captain ask me? Hang, they're an imposter. Oh!
Yeah. Moments after being told that there's a bad Kirk running around.
Yeah.
One of the Kirks asks you for your gun. Why would he want it? And he hands it over. I'm sorry, you're a moron.
You deserve to get knocked out there, Wilson. I'm very sorry.
Deserve to be shot. Dead.
Well, that'd be a Spock's solution.
Yeah.
We can't have this idiocy on our ship.
We now head to the briefing room.
Yeah, we're kind of intershot with the planet's surface because Kirk and Spock are talking with Sulu, who's getting a bit chilly down there on the surface.
Yeah.
Spock tells Kirk that they tried to send heaters down, but they duplicated and didn't. I want to know, what was the evil heater like? It's like it's
really cold.
It's only 1 bar of heat.
They then get a communication informing them about what has happened to Wilson, and Kirk states that they have to find him, but I can't think how.
Yeah, well, Spock then realises that the imposter / evil half somehow has Kirk's knowledge of the ship. It's because he's the same person, Spock.
Yep. So he asks him how he would think, where would he hide in that situation?
And Kirk knows exactly where he would be.
Where's that?
Engineering deck. Kirk and Spock search for, or good Kirk and Spock search for bad Kirk, and the Kirks come face to face.
For some reason, like in a bad movie, Kirk and Spock split up to go in this hunt.
It reminded me of the first episode, The Man Trap, when they tried to circle Crater whilst yelling to each other.
Yeah. So we see the evil Kirk drop down from above, resulting in a face-off between both, as good Kirk insists that the evil one can't kill him. They need each other, and I think that's right.
Yeah, but evil Kirk doesn't care. He says, I don't need you. And he pulls his phaser, or points his phaser at Kirk.
And lets off a shot just as Spock uses his nerve pinch to decommission him. But this doesn't prevent the shot causing a lot of damage to the transporter. That was very, very, very unlucky, wasn't it, that they happened to hit. Oh, down there, there's the one
system
section
you don't want to hit, yeah. That's also happens. Now, this was, we should probably just chuck the trivia in here, the first nerve pinch filmed. So although we've seen it last week in Naked Time, I think, it hadn't been invented, and Leonard Nimoy himself invented it because he wasn't happy with the brutality of Spock knocking out evil Kirk. He was happy enough to knock Nancy around in the Man Trap, but he's not happy to incapacitate Kirk too violently. So he invented this nerve pinch, which has become iconic.
Leaving aside the actor's view, I don't think that Spock would want to harm his friend, because in his mind, I suppose the solution is going to be to merge them both back together, and if he damages one...
Well, I suppose that explains why he was happy to beat up the salt vampire and not evil Kirk. It's because he says he thinks, or he believes, despite all these things he's been saying about an imposter, he believes that this is part of Kirk.
Up in sickbay, Kirk agrees with McCoy that it is too risky to give evil Kirk a tranquilizer.
Yeah, they're just going to bind him to the sickbay bed.
And Kirk opens up with a bit of anguish to Spock, who sees the situation as an opportunity to discover more about the nature of man.
What's the matter with me?
Judging from my observations, Captain, you're rapidly losing the power of decision.
You have a point, Spock.
Yes, always, Doctor. We have here an unusual opportunity to appraise the human mind, or to examine, in Earth terms, the roles of good and evil in a man. His negative side, which you call hostility, lust, violence, and his positive side, which Earth people express as compassion, love, tenderness.
It's the captain's guts you're analyzing. Are you aware of that, Spock?
Yes. And what is it that makes one man an exceptional leader? We see here indications that it is his negative side which makes him strong. That his evil side, if you will, properly controlled and disciplined, is vital to his strength. Your negative side, removed from you, the power of command begins to elude you.
What is your point, Mr. Spock?
If your power of command continues to weaken, you'll soon be unable to function as captain. You must be prepared for that.
You have your intellect, Joe. You can fight with that.
For how long?
If I seem insensitive to what you're going through, Captain, understand. It's the way I am.
Captain Kirk.
I don't think Spock means that he's an insensitive person. It's just he appears insensitive.
Yeah.
But it does come across as him saying, if I appear insensitive, it's because I don't care.
Because I am. That was Scotty at the end of the clip there with the news that the transporter is basically gubbed due to being shot by Kirk. It's his own fault.
Yeah, I like the fact that Scotty's had to discover this and that Kirk and Spock didn't tell him that he shot the transporter.
We jump down to Alpha 177 for a moment where a freezing Sulu politely requests a status update as it is now 41 below.
Yeah, Kirk assures him that they're close to fixing it and everything's going to be fine. He's definitely not going to freeze to death.
Yeah, he's lying to him.
He is, because it's going to take at least a week, Scotty says, to fix the transporters.
And he jokes about getting him some coffee and the end of a long rope.
Very long rope. We've got a very basic recap, Captain's Log. Again, I'm convinced these are post-advertisement catch-ups for people who have been making tea.
Yeah. Also, I think it's just a way to split a scene.
Yeah, it is delivered in an increasingly indecisive way by William Shatner, who is obviously enjoying himself in this episode.
Do we go back down to the planet now?
Yes, we now see Sulu using his phaser to heat rocks.
It's minus 75. And he's surprised when he communicates with the Enterprise and is put through directly to Kirk.
Yeah, I think he makes a joke about having given everyone else the afternoon off.
Yeah.
But Spock does come in.
What does he advise?
He tells Sulu that it's going to be a while longer and he should use the survival procedures, and Sulu refers to Spock's training program.
Yeah, I assumed that meant he had to kill and eat his colleagues.
Yeah, that's only when it gets to minus 130.
Back to sick bay. The bound Kirk, the evil Kirk that is, wakes screaming, and a worried McCoy confirms to good Kirk that the body is weakened. It has been in a duplication process.
Yes, he says that he thinks evil Kirk is dying, but as we know, McCoy is quite prone to hyperbole in these situations.
Is he?
We've seen in the past, he just chose to die.
Yeah,
no,
that's true.
he
gave up.
Yes. He's like, I got to the point of medical science where I couldn't be bothered researching any further.
I made no mistake. The patient decided to die.
Yes.
What can I do?
Death is imminent. I don't know why, but it's probably to do with the transporter accident, and he's definitely going to die. But good Kirk cures evil Kirk by holding his hand and telling him to think.
He does, yeah. That's simple.
Power of the mind over matter. Also, I suggest that perhaps he wasn't actually dying.
In any case, it seems to work, as confirmed by McCoy, who suggests a brandy.
Yeah, well, I think he's following up on the evil Kirk's earlier request, isn't he?
He needs to take him back inside. He needs to merge again, be at one with this person. But he doesn't want the thoughtless, brutal animal that he sees evil Kirk as. A sentiment that doesn't please the evil Kirk who's lying there.
No, I don't think either of them have much time for the other. I don't think evil Kirk thinks, if only I had more compassion.
Yeah, he sees him maybe as a bit of a...
useless.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what can he add? I bet if either one of them was given the free choice, they would both be...
who they are.
Certainly initially opposed to integrating the other.
McCoy, however, is more reasonable about it and claims that we all have our dark side. It just happens that Kirk's is
particularly dark, yeah.
A rapist, yeah. It's what makes us human, and it's needed.
I think this is Hobbesian, isn't it? This sort of the natural state of man is nasty and brutish.
Yeah, it's reminiscent, I suppose, of Jekyll and Hyde.
Well, that's the inspiration for the story, isn't it? We'll
Is it?
maybe mention that later.
Okay. McCoy doesn't like agreeing with Spock, but the negative side is what gives him his strength to lead.
Perhaps to reassure Kirk, but also seemingly correctly, McCoy notes, however, that the good side is the one that appears to have the most courage, or all the courage, because he didn't fear the way that the evil Kirk did.
Well, that's something. Spock then communicates with a request to go to the transporter room. They may have an answer.
Yeah, they've magically fixed this thing that was going to take a week.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes, and we're not going to find out why. Just accept it. It's been fixed.
And as they leave, we see the evil Kirk laugh in the knowledge that he is needed. So he now knows he has the power to, or he has the confidence that he won't be killed.
Yeah, they can't dispose of him, so he's going to look for opportunities, perhaps.
At the transporter room, Spock and Scotty explain through some mumbo-jumbo that they think they have a solution, but they want to test it with the dogs first of all.
Yeah, So they put them through the transporter and they are reunited into one body.
Yeah, I think the indecisive Kirk had to be prodded again to agree to this in the first place.
I think he was willing to take direction from anyone that sounds decisive.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, they beam down this one dog and then...
I don't know if they beam it to anywhere, they just kind of beam it
into the ether and then bring it back.
Yeah, in one body. It's successful. There's one drawback with the body.
What's that?
It's a dead body.
Yeah, I suppose that's not entirely ideal.
Spock rejects science for the rest of this episode.
Does he?
Yes. He decides that doesn't mean anything. The plan's going to work and he's just going to shout about it until they do it.
Kirk looks unworried. Spock's like that. Go on. I'll be fine. Captain's log 1673.1.
Kirk no longer has the willpower to do a log, so Spock's having to do it for him.
Yeah, he takes over the recap duty. I think we're in sick bay now, where McCoy sends the dog off for an autopsy, and Spock enters, where they evaluate the possibilities, with Spock espousing his usual assumptions.
I don't know. Animal could have died of some kind of shock.
For once, I agree with you, Doctor.
I said could have, Mr. Spock. We won't know until we get a full post-mortem.
No autopsy is necessary to know that the animal was terrified, confused. It was split into two halves and suddenly thrust back together again. Thus shock, induced by blind terror.
Yes, that sounds likely.
It couldn't understand. You can. You have your intelligence controlling your fear.
Get the transporter room ready.
Could be, if, maybe, all guesswork so far. Just theory. Jim, why don't you give me a chance to do an autopsy and let Spock check out the transporter circuits again?
That sounds reasonable. We should double check everything.
Aren't you forgetting something, Captain?
No, I don't think I forgot.
Your men on the planet's surface. How much time do they have left?
Yes, that's right, the men. We have to take the chance bones. Their lives...
Suppose it was in shock, Jim. Suppose death was caused by a transporter malfunction. Then you'd die. They'd die anyway. Jim, you can't risk your life on a theory.
Being split in two halves is no theory with me, Doctor. I have a human half, you see, as well as an alien half, submerged, constantly at war with each other. Personal experience, Doctor. I survive it because my intelligence wins out over both, makes them live together. Your intelligence would enable you to survive as well.
I would not be risking my life in that leap by Spock. They died of shock, and your intelligence will overcome that. Away you go.
Yeah, he's just made that up.
He has.
Also, why does he refer to one half of his person as alien? Surely both halves are alien to the other, or neither half is alien.
Yeah, I mean, someone of mixed race wouldn't refer to different parts of themselves. My white half, my black part.
No, they were literally half and half. You can see that coming up in a future episode of Star Trek.
Are you?
Yeah. Anyhow, pathetic Kirk asks Spock to make the decision for him, but he won't do that unless Kirk relinquishes command.
But he says no, he's not doing this.
No, he will make a decision, and he's going to do both.
Yeah, he tells Spock to ready the transporter, but for McCoy to continue with the autopsy. So it's not really a decision, is it?
Yeah, just everyone do what you want, basically. I think, the idea would be if McCoy discovered anything, he could alert them.
They leave to do so, and we see that Kirk's in a bit of mental pain here, a bit of mental torture, as he stumbles through to his Yang and receives a communication from Sulu.
Yeah, Uhura puts Sulu through. Sulu's now within a cube of ice. Yeah,
they are near perished down there, and Sulu is barely able to tell him that it is minus 117 and that two of them are already unconscious. We'll get back at the end, we'll get back to that.
Okay. I hope we do, otherwise they'll be dead. Anyway, Kirk goes back through to, or joins his alter ego in the sickbay bed. Or not in the bed, but next to the bed.
Yes, and he states that he can't let them die. And Evil Kirk asks what he's going to do. The response is that both of them are going through the transporter.
Evil Kirk says he won't fight him. He feels weak and he's ready for this to be over.
So he releases Evil Kirk. This is a mistake number one. And
there was a trap.
Yeah, of course. As soon as he gets his chance, he overpowers good Kirk, grabs his phaser and leaves.
As you would.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that Rand is the first person that he comes across. She must be like, oh, come on.
Yeah, he explains himself. He makes out that he is good Kirk.
She's almost as naive as Wilson and accepts the offer to meet up in his quarters in his bedroom later on to chat through things.
I'm not sure she was that enthusiastic about that offer, but it's, what do you say to your captain? He's obviously not going to get punished for what he's done to you.
I would be saying, Captain, you have to understand that I was nearly raped by you earlier on, so you will forgive me if I don't.
I think what she's seen is that she reported this attempted rape, and they just said it was a figment of her imagination that did it, an imposter that no one can actually confirm believes exists at all. So she's just got to accept it. So she's seeing the system of justice on this ship is not there to protect her, so what can she do?
Yeah, but even his motive for meeting is to explain, but he actually explains.
He's already done that,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clearly not his motive.
So Rand should say, no, it's fine. What you just said there, that's
You've covered it, yeah.
Yeah. On the bridge, Evil Kirk resumes command.
Or takes command, I suppose, depending how you look at it.
And orders the protesting Pharaoh to leave orbit.
Yes, but the men cannot be saved. Spock is there for some reason. I thought he'd gone to the transporter room.
Yeah, but he's very efficient. He's done that. Spock, I think, is a bit concerned by this order, but he tells them to go back to his station. And things get complicated when McCoy and good Kirk enter.
Yeah, I was hoping that then you'd have Rand and a third Kirk arriving, just to throw another cat among the pigeons right at the end.
Scooby-Doo ending here, they're pulling masks off. And there is only a brief doubt about who is who until Spock walks over beside good Kirk and McCoy, causing evil Kirk to flip out and pull his phaser out as he is surrounded.
Yeah, he hauls the helmsman off his station and insists that he is the real captain, which, yeah, I suppose he is as much as the other guy.
Kirk, however, knows what needs to be done and reminds the fragile evil Kirk that they need each other to live. If one dies, they both do.
There's an interesting shot here where it's been reversed and Kirk's hair and his scratches are on the different side. I think that was just a technical issue. The shot that they took didn't physically fit the shape of the film that they wanted to do, so they had to do some jiggery pokery and hoped that nobody would notice.
Okay. In any case, Kirk's logic enables him to take the phaser from the crying, breaking down evil Kirk, who is wailing that he wants to live. And Kirk tells him he will. They both will.
But mostly me.
Yeah, you're going back in your box. Rand's thinking to herself, I'm not do we need to let him live? She's always worried, petrified that he's in there. As soon as she sees Kirk going for a glass of brandy, it's, oh no, I'll be locking my door extra tight, double bolting my quarters tonight.
Changing the codes on that one.
Yeah.
Down in the transporter room, Kirk indicates to Spock that he knows what to do if this fails. And I'm not sure if he means take over the ship or tell my family, something like that. But either way.
They stand hugging each other.
The two Kirks.
And are beamed down. Where's Scotty? Why is he not doing the beaming?
He's on a tea break.
Okay.
It's inconvenient, but these things happen. I think it's mandatory.
When I say beamed down, they're beamed
into the ether.
And then reversed.
They are.
And we wait to discover their fate. And of course, this time, it's a complete success with only one live Kirk returning.
Yes, he immediately orders the rescue of the crewmen. And once they're aboard, McCoy reports that they will all probably survive.
Yeah, again, if I was Rand, I'd be thinking, okay, 2 went away, 1 come back. How can I be sure this is not just the evil Kirk pretending?
Yeah, well, guess judge him by his actions.
We cut to a short time later and see Sulu and another person being wheeled off the transporter with severe exposure and frostbite, but they're expected to make a full recovery, we hear. Now, I said I'd get back to this. There were only 2 people we seen coming back. So did the other 2 die? I presume they did.
No, they already were up and out the room before.
No, they're dead. They're dead.
They're not dead.
They are.
No, because McCoy says they'll probably all survive.
Yeah, but he was wrong. McCoy's always wrong.
No, after they came back, he said they'd probably all survive.
Well, he didn't say them all. I think they said they'll probably survive. These ones,
The other ones are dead.
So, any experts out there? I mean, Ian, you are claimed to be the world's leading expert.
Can't even say it without laughing. Yeah.
No.
I don't think there's any. They don't come back to this, so make up your own mind.
Some don't know.
Sulu survives. That's the important one. He's got a name.
Yeah.
up on the bridge. Oh, sorry, before we go to the bridge, McCoy asks Kirk how he's feeling, and he's a little bit shaky still. He thinks he's seen something that no man should have to see.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Rand without her makeup. No.
Oh, harsh.
No,
Very
I don't
harsh.
know. What has he seen? What's he seen?
We'll get to that next week.
Yeah. What do we?
Huh? Not Rand.
No, that's not at all what he means. He means the other half of himself.
Yeah. On the bridge, Kirk thanks Spock from both of them and states the imposter is back where he belongs, in Rand's quarters. And
This,
should be.
this is a fiction. They're referring to this other half as an imposter.
Yeah.
It's an integral part of Captain Kirk.
Mhm.
This is a reframing of what's happened to make it seem like he has no responsibility. Like he's only responsible for what good Kirk did, but he can't say that.
He actually says that evil Kirk has to be forgotten. No. Again, if you're Rand, you're not forgetting that ever.
He shouldn't be.
No. You should be wary of him because he has the potential to turn into a violent sexual offender.
Yeah. So anyway, Rand's there, and she says the imposter explained it all to her, and then doesn't quite get to articulate what she's about to say because Kirk says, "Yeah, I know."
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure what she was going to say. Was she trying to say she doesn't blame him?
Yeah.
Because she realises that she is just irresistible.
There's nothing like allowing someone to have a victim statement to get their thoughts out there. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Sorted doll. You forget about it. Everyone's cool now.
And if you thought that was uncomfortable,
Oh, yeah.
Spock has got the icing out of its packet and he has been rolling it extra thin because he's about to lay it right all over Rand's face.
Oh, what did he do?
He says the imposter had some interesting qualities, wouldn't you say, Yeoman? Basically suggesting that she liked.
Yeah, he's smiling as he says this. He's got a...
Yeah, you enjoyed it when he did that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Because you love Kirk.
Well, we all know women like a bad guy. You know, like a bit rough. Yeah, and they don't get much rougher than a rapist.
It's shocking behaviour. I think even in her own autobiography, Grace Lee Whitney, who plays Rand, said that she was a bit uncomfortable with that line.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I couldn't believe it when we were watching this. I think, what are they trying to...
To get Spock to say it as well. The rational, logical guy.
Even, he wouldn't have appreciated any of that at all, like as a character.
Yeah. No.
It's crazy.
That line should not have been in the episode.
No.
That thought should not have been in the writer's head when he was putting the episode together. It's like, oh yeah, this is how we make it seem like Kirk's not so bad. We insinuate that Rand kind of wanted it anyway, and therefore he's not a rapist.
Yeah, there we go. And at this, Kirk sets them off on a course for another adventure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the implication is, although Kirk has this very dark side, he is absolutely in control of it and would never behave in this way.
But what about when he gets a drink in him? We all know that alcohol or other stimulants can...
Well, he wouldn't. He's professional. He doesn't drink, obviously. Except for brandy every now and then. Because McCoy didn't seem that surprised when he asked for the brandy, did he?
No. So yeah, interesting episode. As I said at the top of the podcast, I think it's my favourite so far in terms of entertainment.
Strong performance from William Shatner in both roles, I think, particularly as the good Kirk, showing the increasing concern and lack of conviction.
Yeah, well, he had to play effectively two characters this week.
3, if you include the combined Kirk.
Yeah.
Briefly at the start and the end.
Sure. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think clearly Shatner is enjoying testing the full range of his skills. I thought there's, we've mentioned it a few times, I'm very uncomfortable with the implication that evil Kirk wasn't the real Kirk and good Kirk was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what the science that they gave us in the episode said at all.
No.
I think, as we've mentioned, both of these Kirks are equally Kirk.
Yes.
And that should be, or should have been considered in the wrap-up more, maybe, than it was.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like I said, I do think they were trying to kind of hint at excusing that behaviour. A couple of general trivia notes. The writer of the episode, Richard Matheson, didn't do any of the stuff on the planet, any of that. He didn't like B-plots. He thought they slowed down his story. He wanted more Kirk on Kirk action. But he didn't get the final say. As you mentioned, there's a Scottish connection because the story is inspired by Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. People know that story, and if they don't, then they should probably just go and read it or watch a film. There's no point in me narrating the story of Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh.
It's similar. There's a man who splits into two halves. Well, it doesn't split though.
It's different personality.
Changes from one to the other. Yeah.
A split personality.
Yeah. Beyond Kirk's troubling behaviour, there is some suggestion in Grace Lee Whitney's autobiography that Mr. Shatner himself had some troubling behaviour.
Really? Tell me about this.
So the scene where Rand, you played the clip, Rand is recounting to Spock, McCoy and Kirk, who she thinks has just attacked her, what had happened. There was some feeling in the room that she didn't quite have the same emotion that she'd had during the actual attack scene, and William Shatner's acting technique to get the emotion out of her was to slap her in the face.
Method acting?
Well, now, she does go on to say this was one of her favourite episodes to do and that she loved working with him, so...
She would say that now.
Maybe it didn't...
She's looking for royalties. Or was.
Maybe it didn't upset her, but it seems to me inappropriate.
Yeah.
I don't think you would get to do that now, certainly, and I think it's maybe one of those things that where people maybe believed was normal, but shouldn't have been accepted as normal.
PC going mad. You can't just slap her.
I mean, that's how I get you in the mood for these podcasts, isn't it?
Well, listen, yeah, but I've given you permission.
Yeah. If you ever hear a noise in the background. But yeah, yes, that's not great, is it?
Anything else?
Well, not other than things like air dates and people.
Go on with it then.
You don't have any other thoughts before we go into that?
No.
Okay, originally aired in the US on the 6th of October 1966, just after the Football World Cup was cancelled and nobody won it. It was directed by Leo Penn. I'll give you a chance in a second. This is his only episode of Star Trek, as well as being the father of Sean, Chris and Michael Penn. He was at one time, from 47 to 58, the brother-in-law of Alfred Ryder, who we saw in The Man Trap, playing Professor Crater. He was married to Ryder's sister.
There you go. And obviously, at one time, he was the father-in-law of Madonna.
Yes, at a different time, but yes. Mm-hmm. He is our big Columbo connection this week.
He is 3 episodes and 3 very good episodes. Can you remember what they were?
Well, I looked it up on IMDb. I can tell you at least one of them.
Go for it.
So he did Columbo Goes to the Guillotine, the first of the relaunched or rebooted series in the 80s. 89, I think he did that. He started in Columbo in 1973.
With Ennio Port, which is...
Very popular episode.
Very popular. And interestingly, he directed the last of the original run, so he was there at the beginning and the end.
So the Conspirators?
Yes.
So he had back-to-back episodes, essentially.
Over, yes, but 10-year gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've mentioned the writer already, Richard Matheson.
You're not going to tell us more about Leo Penn?
No, that's it.
He's got a massive CV of great shows from
he did loads of things, but Columbo's the main thing.
Yeah, Barnaby Joe. Yeah.
What's your favourite Leo Penn story?
What do you mean, story?
What's your favourite thing about Leo Penn?
Sean Penn's dad.
Yeah, that's it. Have you watched much of his stuff other than Columbo and this?
I've watched a lot of the shows that he has directed, TV shows. So I might not know that they're Leo Penn necessarily.
Yeah, he was quite an accomplished and celebrated director, I think. There were some stories about him being blacklisted at one stage, wasn't there?
I think he was quite politically active.
During McCarthyism.
That's where his son gets it from, I think.
Okay. Right, like I say, the writer, Richard Matheson, he also only contributed this one show to Star Trek, and you're going to like some of his other work. So he wrote a number of Twilight Zone episodes. He wrote I Am Legend and the classic Jaws 3D.
The best Jaws.
Yeah. He died in 2013 when he was 87. A brief note about Saul Kaplan.
Okay.
I don't know why, I just liked his name. But he scored the episode. It was the first of 6 episodes that he worked on, and it's probably his work on Star Trek that's the most high-profile thing on his resume. He was 71 when he died in 1990. Jim Goodwin, not the St Mirren manager for any of our Scottish listeners. He made the first of his...
That'll be getting cut.
He made the first of his 3 appearances as Farrell. In this episode we saw him, I think, in the last scene in the bridge.
Farrell, not the ex-St Mirren assistant manager.
No, he... Let's stop the St Mirren stuff. Yeah. He was the one that didn't like Evil Kirk's order to abandon the men on the planet.
Sure. He's
appeared in shows like Perry Mason, Chips, and Little House on the Prairie. He died in 1980 at the age of just 50 and was a personal friend of someone you've heard of in an earlier episode, John D.F. Black.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about him. He wrote one of the episodes and was also the story editor for the whole series. And it was that relationship that got him his part on Star Trek.
Very good.
Ed Madden.
Dick Madden.
Ed Madden.
Okay. Who's Dick Madden? Is he an American footballer? Manager?
I have no idea. John Madden was
John Madden, that's who I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Dick Madden's was a Celtic reserve goalkeeper, I think.
Okay. Ed Madden previously appeared in The Cage, which we've not come to yet, but may in the future. This is his second Star Trek appearance. He didn't do a lot of acting, certainly not on screen. He's only got a handful of other shows, including an episode of The Fugitive. He's a bit of a man of mystery, so if anyone knows anything about him, please feel free to jump on a StarTrekPodcast.com in the comments for this episode and let us know. I'm not really got anything on him after 1968. I don't know how long he lived. I don't know what else he did. So if anyone has any knowledge, please feel free to share it with us.
Maybe he ended up in prison.
Who knows? Who knows? Okay, so I've covered my Grace Lee Whitney trivia earlier, so I can skip ahead to international titles.
Okay.
There's not a lot of variation this week. The French and the Italians go on a similar theme. See if you can translate
We're all just here for the Japanese.
Well, see if you can... If I give you the French and Italian, see if you can translate them yourself.
No, I can't. I don't speak French. I only speak Japanese.
I think you've got a chance here. So, l'imposteur.
The imposter.
And il duplicato.
Oh, fair enough, yeah.
The Japanese translators, I'm sorry to say, I think they were low on inspiration this week. They went for Futari no Kaku, means two Kirks, which suggests to me that the Japanese for Kirk is Kaku, as in Brazilian footballer.
Okay.
Anyway, any other thoughts on this week's episode?
No, just as I said, my favourite so far. Good performance by the Shat, and some interesting subject matter, I suppose. Some more challenging.
Definitely, I would agree with that. Next week, though, we've got a very different episode.
Tell me about it.
Mudd's Women. It's another very progressive concept.
Is it now?
I'm sure you'll find. Yes. In the meantime, you'll be able to find us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, who are at Trek Podcast. We may or may not be on YouTube.
Probably not. Yeah.
Anyway, but we'll certainly be on our website, www.astartrekpodcast.com, where there's an entry for every episode and comments where you can jump in and give us your memories of the episode, your thoughts on the podcast, and share your experiences with fellow fans.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.